Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
Love
Mondays.
Monday fun day.
Right. It's different than most people, right? We have Manic Monday and we have Monday that disparage Mondays. And I just see it as a new opportunity to, do a new week, right? There's new challenges. I mean, if we're not being challenged in our life, what are we doing? Like, I need to grow. I need to be thinking. I need to be doing new things. So
fair enough. Challenges make life worth getting out of bed for.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just rolling through life. I mean, what's your purpose?
Exactly.
So I love Mondays.
Yeah. And we're lucky that, we've got people that we enjoy hanging out with, working with. I would imagine that most jobs, there's at least somebody there that you kind of enjoy spending time with.
I think a good, probably a lot of the reason that people stay in the jobs or that they're in is culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the reason that people stay in relationships that they're in is probably related to, how good that other person makes them feel and that kind of thing. So
no, and that's actually where I was thinking we might go today.
Oh,
is talking about relationships. And I mean, 'cause it's pretty well known that when you have a good, positive relationship, a supporting relationship, you get that positive feedback, you get that support, you get, you get love, you get respect, as I said. And the more you get, the happier you feel, the more satisfied you feel. And that creates a lot of positive emotions inside of you to help you to be able to combat anyway a lot of those negative ones.
Right.
And I mean, and this again, it's a healthy relationship with the people you work with your, your intimate partner, your family. The better you can have those relationships, it's well known that it has a humongous positive benefit to pretty much all of our other aspects of life.
Sure.
And I mean, it's what I found really interesting is, again, doing a little bit of work for today's episode. I was just looking around at different stuff and I ran across an article from Syracuse University, their campus newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about, in fact, the very beginning of their article was the single biggest predictor of a person's happiness, whether it's in business, physical health, their financial status, the fame, whatever, all came down to the success or how well they had in relationships with others.
Right.
And crying out loud, we go back to some of the attachment theory models that when we have good attachment, we are willing to branch out, try new things, experiment with life. I mean, that's why infants, from birth all the way through death, it is that attachment that we have to other people that can make life either a lot more enjoyable or a lot more scary.
Sure.
And so anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting because that got me thinking about, why do we not have all of our relationships be perfect? Why don't they all last?
Right.
And I mean, I think back to through life, and some of it is, maybe people move. You move, they move. I had a real good friend in elementary school. His name was Chris Dunphy.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom and dad, they moved the family to West Virginia, and I lost one of my best friends.
Right.
And I was heartbroken. But and you needed that relationship, but that opened the door for other relationships to grow and manifest. And like I say, we date people. Sometimes you work with people. And so anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting with a little reflection of, okay, why don't all relationships work?
So, okay.
I mean, have you ever had a relationship with a friend, a coworker, anything like that just didn't, or romantic? Well, I know you and Eileen have been together forever.
So I'm going to imagine that, and without getting into, the specifics of our time in the United States. I'm going to imagine that there are thousands of people out there, and everybody that listens to our podcast that has some kind of relationship that has failed.
Yeah.
In the last 8 to 10 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it doesn't have to be romantic.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, there's all kinds of relationships with our neighbors, really.
Sure.
Like I said, people we work with. And so I then was going along and I was kind of thinking, okay, well, what makes relationships not succeed? I mean, we can all, I think we can make good arguments of why they would work. Tolerance, forgiveness, understanding, compassion.
Sure.
All right, all that, patience. But what causes relationships to fail?
I mean, clearly the other person's just a jerk.
Absolutely. That was my first thought.
Right.
If they just agreed with me, we wouldn't have this problem.
Nothing wrong with me. It's not me. It's you.
Thank you. Exactly where I was going. But, okay, all kidding aside.
Sure, right.
That's, I came up with some fundamental stuff, and one of them was communication breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back to what contributed to my marriage to fail, and a good piece of that was a lack of communication between expectations, all that. And because of that, that led to another consequence of why relationships break down. And that was now an emotional distance.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we were not talking to each other and the conversations were mostly superficial, well, that emotional gap grew, which created, kind of a Grand Canyon kind of environment between the two of us.
Yeah.
And so therefore, with less of emotional connection, well, less of a care
Mm-hmm.
what the other person wants or thinks. And so that then led to increased conflict, and that then led to avoidance. And these were the top 4, actually, when I did a little investigation
Sure.
of what helps contribute to relationships breaking apart.
Yeah. I mean, can I just say that I think that there's one word that I come back to all the time that I think applies to relationships romantically, work-wise, casual relationships, social media, friendships, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that thing, and it probably plays into those top ones that you mentioned, right? Is empathy, right? Like we don't care to try to understand the other person at all, like where they're at.
Yeah.
Typically.
Okay, I can see that. I
wonder how many of the items you want to mention would actually connect with that kind of an idea.
I don't know. That's interesting. Well, so because I think you're onto something there, because if you read a news article, all right, pick any news article from any media platform, and as you're reading, unless it's a newspaper, newspapers don't allow for this, but you go on
Do
to
they have those anymore?
Maybe.
I think I've seen a couple like on a highway somewhere in the West area.
Okay. Fair enough. I think hotels still hand out the USA Today, but
they email it to you.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, now we're digital format, and all these digital formats allow people to comment.
Yeah.
And if you go through and you read these comments, some of the things people say is just kind of like, wow. And you're talking about no empathy. Well, they're jumping to conclusions, and they must get a lot of exercise with doing that, as they make assumptions based on either what somebody else has said or based on what little information is provided in the news story. It's kind of like there is way more to this story than what is being shared here. And so if you're going to make an assumption about a person or something that they said or did based on what is only in this article, wow, where's your empathy? Where's your understanding?
Yeah.
Which then all of this leads me to where I want to go today, and that is with a particular podcast that I stumbled across, and it was on iHeart Country Radio, which, iHeart Radio on digital platforms.
Sure.
Anyway, so it's a podcast by a guy by the name of Bob Delma. And in there, he was talking about the biggest contributors to a failed relationship.
Okay.
And so they did a survey, and they interviewed tons and tons of people. And so they came up with a top 10 list.
Ooh, fun. We like top 10. Are we going to start at 1 or 10?
I don't know. What do you want to do? You want to start at 10?
I mean, we could.
Okay, well, number 10 fits right in your wheelhouse.
Oh, I love it.
All right. So, again, and this is just
I don't know what my wheelhouse is, but I love it. I can't wait.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting. But and this is why I say it fits in your wheelhouse. Washing the dishes. One of the top 10 reasons that relationships fail is because people aren't doing dishes the right way, or aren't doing them at all. And I thought of...
So the other person's not doing it? Is that what we're saying?
Yes. In fact...
Of course, if the other person's not doing it, am I also not doing it?
Well, if nobody's washing dishes, then dishes aren't getting done.
Nobody's doing it. It's not that one person's doing it and the other person is never doing it.
Or maybe they're doing it wrong.
Right. Or no, we can't have that.
Because maybe they're not.
Is there a wrong way to do dishes or a dishwasher?
I don't know. Ask your kids.
Yeah.
But I thought back to even, some of the issues we've had here at work, where we have our kitchen and people will dirty dishes, but they don't necessarily then wash their own dishes.
Oh, such a pet peeve of mine.
And so that, I think to, some of our coworkers, and has that contributed to a deterioration of our friendship, our relationship, our ability to work well together?
I mean, here's the interesting thing, right? So my wife and I got married young, and, I wasn't a big dishwasher kind of a person, right?
Okay.
I mean, I would put dishes in the dishwasher, with stuff all over them and whatever, but she would typically do wash the dishes, and I wouldn't worry about it. I have, in my older age, and my wife and I now have no children at home, and so we don't produce as many dishes to be dirty as you might imagine. And I like washing dishes. I get up on Saturday mornings. We have breakfast with some of our kids that come over instead of doing Sunday lunch. And, right as soon as I'm done eating, I'm cleaning up the dishes. Like we're all just sitting around the counter. And I just wash the dishes while we're talking. It's relaxing to me, right? Like, it's a very controlled environment. I can control it. I feel good about it. I've produced, I've accomplished something. So I find it interesting that like relationships are breaking up over dish. Like just throw them away and get new ones if you have to. Like buy paper plates.
Well,
right. Do something different. But
yeah,
or just get out that liquid soap
and there you go.
And it's almost I don't know. I think it's a relaxing process for me.
Well, again, I was surprised. Most of these things on this list are a little surprising, but I think that, and this is what the article or the podcast Bob was talking about in his podcast, it's not one thing. In fact, in none of the research that I did in preparing for today's episode said that it was just one thing. It was an accumulation of many of these things.
Sure. It's like debt, right? Like having one payment isn't such a big deal, but when you have 35 of them, it's crushing you.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, again, with this top 10 list, odds are in a failed relationship, you could argue that you may have done 6, 7, 8, or maybe even all 10 of these.
Right.
All right. So number 10 was never washing the dishes. Number 9 was being too messy.
Right.
And I have to say that is one of Sherry's comments or pet peeves of mine is I'm a little too messy. And I'm working on it.
Sure.
And I'll do real good and then I'll do real bad. And then I'll clean it up and I'll do good for a while and then I'll go back to that. So
I have to work really hard on this one too.
Okay.
Right. Like I leave stuff around the house, and my wife she likes to have things neat and tidy and everything in its place. And I try to be, I try to be attentive to that, but I also I'm always in a state of doing things.
Okay.
So I have things out constantly, but if somebody's coming over or whatever, I definitely neaten everything up, and I try to keep my piles neat and organized, and they have a clear purpose so that she's not throwing them out or something. But it's tough, right? I mean, as I said, when I was in my 20s, there was stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
A little older now, and I'm starting to find myself liking things to be a little bit more organized. both at work and at home.
Organized life.
Right? I mean, my desk at work used to be a complete disaster.
Yeah.
And now I keep it pretty tidy. So
mine's not totally tidy, but it's not totally a mess. So
yeah, I'm becoming more of a minimalist, I think.
Okay.
On some of these things.
Well, yeah. So that was number 9. In fact, what was interesting is 1 in 4 people surveyed said that being too messy was a contributor to a failed
pick
relationship.
Up your socks and underwear.
There you go. Your mama don't live here. So, well, unless you're living at home with your mama. But anyway, number 8, and I guess I'm a little guilty of this, being too talkative.
I mean, we do have a podcast, so
we do.
I think that, people who aren't talkative wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
So we just like to talk.
So
6 or 7 days a week.
Well, yeah. And our jobs require us to talk.
Here's the thing, right? Like, you always hear that saying, like you have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Listen twice as much as you talk. If you're being too talkative, then you're probably just not letting the other person get a word in edgewise, right?
Good point.
And so, I mean, it seems like a simple thing to fix to me, but I also know that I was younger and, didn't listen a lot when I was younger. So, certainly if you're in the early stages of a relationship, this can definitely be difficult, I think.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So that was number 8. Number 7 is, and this was 35%. So 1/3 of the people surveyed said that this was a contributing factor. All right. And it was not liking a specific food.
Now, this one I don't get at all.
No, I didn't either.
Like, what is there any background to this? Is there any?
No.
I mean,
no.
I mean, I get it. Like, I hate lima beans. And I'm not going to eat Brussels sprouts. But if my wife wants to eat Brussels sprouts,
go right ahead.
Go for it, right? Like, we'll buy Brussels sprouts and we'll cook them up. I'm just not going to eat it.
Yeah. Well, I will say that Eric's mother did not like my internationally renowned taco salad recipe.
You do like your Mexican.
Oh, I can eat it almost all the time. In fact, maybe I'll get some for dinner tonight. Anyway, so yeah, but she didn't like it. So when we separated, I was making it all the time.
Sure.
To the point now that Sherry's not a big fan of it, but her mother likes it, her sister likes it, and so
I found that I like a lot more foods than I thought I did. Right? Because when you're younger, I don't like that, and then somebody inevitably says, "Have you tried it?" No, I just already decided I don't like it, right? I don't like the smell, I don't like the look of it, whatever. Not actually tasted it or tried it. And so as I gotten older, I have tried more things, and I definitely like them, But I still hate lima beans and Brussels sprouts. I got nothing.
Yeah.
Got nothing for those.
My mom would make with
and I'm not eating liver.
Oh, God, no. No, so. Liver and onions, forget it. Sherry loves liver and onions. My mother loves liver and onions.
I mean... there's counselors for those people. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. So, all right. So,
sorry, Sherry.
Well, if Eileen likes liver and onions, the two girls.
We're not having liver and onions.
Well, we
are solid on that one.
Okay. Fair enough. So that brings us to the next one. And this one I do get. And that is it's poor manners. Number 6 on this list is poor manners. People having poor manners, whether it's chewing with your mouth open, talking with your mouth full. I mean, we had a thing growing up. Basically, it was like eight good table manners, and it was saying it was in our family we called it "Don't be a goop" because that's what this little. I guess in the old... Well,
is that a 4-letter word? Because we probably use different 4-letter word in my family.
Maybe. But it was out of a manual. Okay. And it showed these... I don't know how you would describe them, but we called them goops. And they were all doing these bad behavior things. And so it was put up around the dinner table, this picture, and my mom and dad would say, "Don't be a goop, don't lick your knife," and different things, to the point that my sister and I today will still tease each other up, "Don't be a goop, don't be a goop."
I'm going to use that. Not with anybody else than you, but because nobody else is going to, unless they've been listening, they're not going to know what that means. But yeah, I mean, poor manners is big, right? And I think this extends right outside of your home to, social situations, to work, to, even social media, right? I mean, and this comes back to empathy, right? If I have poor manners, I'm probably like talking over another person, which means I'm not listening to them. I'm not trying to understand them. It just could be any number of things. I could act in a negative manner towards them because I don't understand the situation they're going. And frankly, every person is going through something deeper than you could possibly know. Everybody's hiding something from somebody.
True.
So we don't know what's happening, right? So I think that manners, politeness, deference is important.
I agree.
I can see where poor manners would definitely be an issue, but I feel like this can be learned and can be talked out, right? Like you can go to a counselor and you can talk about that, or you could just maybe even talk to each other about it and come to an understanding.
I think if you talk to each other, I think a lot of times, and again, if it's poor upbringing, I think anymore bad manners includes when you're out to dinner and everybody's on their phones.
I think a lot of these are just like people break up over these things because the other person doesn't want to do anything about it.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So,
all right. So we've done the 6, number 5, being too obsessed with their pets.
I am sorry, people. I am not a pet person. I am all about your pets. Like we go over to your house and you have pets. Fine. I don't ever want to have pets of any kind. It's just me, right? Like I'm not like a mean, terrible person. Dogs don't like get angry at me or anything. They love me. I'm just not interested in having pets. But I can see this. Like there are people that have pets where like they almost look like their pets. Like their pets look like them. And and they do things, and that's fine, right? Like if that's your thing to stay happy, but I think there is a point, right? There's always moderation.
I'm with you.
Again, I feel like this can be worked out, though.
Yeah, but Eric's mother absolutely loved the pets. In fact, she told me that she loved the pets more than she loved me. So when that gets to be the issue, that's worthy of a breakup. Right? Yes. All right, number 4. Now, I don't get this because I think I'm a funny guy. But, okay, I know you just mouthed funny looking, but that's a different one. Anyway, so number 4 is no sense of humor or a very odd or different sense of humor.
I'm actually laughing because I as teachers, we try to, get the students interested. And part of teaching is an art form rather than, delivery. And so when you're talking with the students, sometimes you want to be a little bit of a comedian.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Because it gets their attention and engages. And so, sometimes you try that and it's like, okay, guys, you could have given me at least some kind of laugh. Right?
Goes kerplop.
You could have just been like, you tried. Right. So, but I don't know. I mean, if you're a funny person and you get with somebody that's not funny at all or doesn't like humor, then you probably need to evaluate why you're together.
Exactly.
So, I mean, some breakups are valid, right? I mean, you're just not compatible, maybe in some other way. But I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe we just need to lighten up as a whole.
Yeah. No, I've been told
I love comedy.
I do too. I'm just told I'm not as good at it as I think I am.
The problem is that some comedy is really, like if you go to a comedy show, you need to be prepared to be offended.
Oh, yes.
That's kind of the part of the purpose of it.
Yeah.
What some of that comedy is.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, then, maybe you don't want to go to the show.
Fair enough. All right. So in our top 3, number 3 is poor hygiene. Okay.
Now here's the first one that I totally get.
Yes, I do too.
I mean, I can totally understand that one. And this is a lot of people, right? This is
42% of the people surveyed said that hygiene was a top contributor, or was a top contributor to why they broke up. And I'm going, my God, if you stink, bad breath.
It's hard to be around somebody that's not, even able to take care of themselves.
Oh, one of my
but here is also empathy, right? Like you don't know. I mean, maybe they don't have a sense of smell. Maybe there's, something else going on there. But if this goes like with anything else. If you work on it, if you talk about it, and nothing changes, I don't know.
So, I worked at Kroger's when I was in high school, and I was a bag boy because back then, we would always bag and carry out groceries. Well, there was an overweight, I don't know, well, in your high school, everybody over 30 is an old person, but there was an older person, and she would come in, and she had been coming in for years.
Sure.
And so I learned this from some of the older employees that have been there a while. But whenever she would come in and get her groceries, she just stunk to high heaven. And so they would always slip a bar of soap on the store
Sure.
into her bag with the idea of, here's a bar of soap. And so I was told, McCall, go get a bar of soap and, just, covertly slide it into her bag of groceries. And so we did.
Right.
I don't know that it ever helped, but again, poor hygiene. You don't want to be around spending quality time with somebody that smells.
I mean, it's tough. Yeah.
So hit the showers, baby.
It's tough. I mean, if change isn't coming, again, here's the first one I can totally understand.
Absolutely. So how about this one? All right. Number 2, overuse of social media.
See, now I think this one's very subjective, right? Whereas like poor hygiene, you can smell it. I think everybody can smell it. I don't think nobody's going, oh, I can't wait to get that BO candle. Right.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's loving that.
No.
So, but like social media, I think there's different levels, and the overuse of it can be very subjective, right? Like maybe I'm a content creator, and so I'm going to be on social media all the time.
Okay.
Or, on the other hand, maybe I'm just sitting on the couch scrolling constantly forever and ever and ever. Right.
But if that is a dominant part of your life, you have to post on social media, Facebook, Instagram, every single thing you're doing, everywhere you go, and you got to comment on everybody else's. And that's...
Are you disparaging my food photos from Instagram 12, 13 years ago?
No, I didn't know you had it.
You didn't know that that's what people did?
No. But, I mean, it's kind of like, look, be engaged with me. I'm here with the people around you. Be engaged. If you're constantly on social media, then you're not engaged with the people around you.
Right. I mean, we all know that I'm on it too much because I send everybody memes all the time. Right. But,
well, I think there's a difference, though, between, okay, if you're just chilling out, if you're in a waiting room, if you are, you're watching TV, but you've seen it, it's on, and Sherry and I will kind of sometimes do this where it's the end of the day, you're unwinding, TV's on, but you're scrolling through, or, and, oh, okay, whatever. But I think there's a little difference between that and you're on it all the time.
I mean, and again, but I think it's subjective. I think different people get different things out of social media, and I'm not saying they're all good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me, I think that like 95% of social media, my time is better spent watching reruns of, the Three Stooges over and over and over.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather see that than most of social media. But there are things that, I only stay on social media for 2 things, right? Family and professional stuff, like trying to make connections and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to stay in touch with family, and sometimes that's an easy way to do it.
Yes, I'll agree with
having
you.
Huge, massive text chains.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I'm just sitting down scrolling, I might be able to find some better things to do with my time. Like maybe I could wash the dishes, clean up my space, or take a shower.
Okay. Fair enough. And again, I agree with you. I waste more time than I probably should on social media. Just following, scrolling.
Does.
Watching Facebook Reels.
I think everybody does. That's how Mark Zuckerberg got so rich.
True enough. All right. So number 1. And when I read this, I thought of a particular movie. The number 1 with 43% people saying this was a top contributor was Clinginess.
Mm. And
the first movie that I thought of was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days with Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson. And, how she was, trying to pretend to be clingy and all that. Anyway, I think of that movie when I thought it, or when I saw this, but I'm thinking, I got to have room to breathe. Mm-hmm. I want to hang out with you, but I don't want to hang out with you 24/7.
Right.
And when I'm off to work, I'm off to work. I don't need you texting me, hey, how you doing? Are you at work? When are you coming home? I don't need you to track my phone with Live 360, checking up on me, coming to my work and checking to see if I'm there.
Right.
There's got to be a level of trust. And I got to be able to go hang out with my friends and hang out with you and do our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
you can't be clingy.
So you have to live life, and in relationship, life can't be 100% always with that other person. You have to be able to live, and then you have something to share too, right? But different jobs, different things. I mean, my wife and I are in the same career, but we don't work in the same place, and we don't teach the same things. So we have a lot to discuss, right? So,
shared commonalities, but shared differences too.
And you can learn from each other.
And that's, I don't know. I just, like I say, these are our top 10. All right. Again, according to the podcast by Bob Delmont on iHeart Country radio stations.
These are great things. I don't think that any of them are, should necessarily break up a relationship, but, anything that continues after it's addressed is going to be a problem.
And I think that's
relationship. I mean, if your boss tells you to do something or tells you something that you're doing wrong, and then you continue to do it, that relationship might break up at some point.
Well, so, okay. I got a comedy one here that they added on here, and I thought, oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
At the bottom of their list, or near the bottom of their list, with only 12% of the people surveyed saying it was an issue.
This can't be a big thing.
Bad sex.
Wow.
That bad sex is not really much of a contributor to why.
So I feel like this could go two ways.
Okay.
Either there isn't a lot of bad sex out there, or people just generally don't care that much about the sex over all the other stuff.
Well, I'm going to go with the other one, but hey, you know what? Maybe, I don't know. I'm not an expert.
Neither am I.
I'm not a professional.
Well, that's a good thing. We're happy about that.
All right. Well, anyway, hoping that your relationships continue to grow and strengthen and be a very positive influence for you. That's all I got.
All right. I think that's great.
So
empathy still sticks out to me.
I cannot agree more.
Approaching these things with empathy and then addressing them. And then if they don't get addressed, I can see where these could be issues. So, yeah.
All right. Well, then with that, I say thanks for hanging out today.
Yeah.
I'm Rod.
Have a great week.
See ya.
Bye.